Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for tuning in and your support of the Midnight Mirage and Red Stick family. For all the new supporters, we're very, very grateful to have you here. And if you are a returning person, love to you. So I was just kind of sitting back and thinking about the people and just wanted to come on and give you a shout out and just give you some things to think about so we can always be on the up when it comes to our strategy towards success. All right. We want to be always on the up when it comes to the strategies that we're using in this life towards success. All right. So the purpose of this video basically is to have a conversation and a commentary on military intelligence on the enemy within. So that's military intelligence on the enemy within. So whenever you have some type of a conflict, you want to gain as much information as you can on your enemy. So whether that's the military or it could be a sporting event. Just recently, the Boston Celtics swept the Indiana Pacers. So that was a sporting event. So that means you need to get as much information on the Indiana Pacers as you can if you're Boston. You're looking at game film. You're looking at what the players are good at, what they're not good at. And you're on an investigation for information, because the more you know about the opponent and the more you know about yourself, then the better the strategy that you can come up with. And if this strategy is good, you will win. You will succeed. And that's the goal in this life, is to succeed. So when it comes to the opponent or the adversary in our life, most of us are familiar with the external forces. But in particular, in this video, we want to focus on that enemy within. The enemy within will be our fear adrenaline. All right. The enemy within will be our fear adrenaline. The enemy within will be our past traumas. The enemy within will be the memory of our past failures. All right. And if you're not careful, your past failures and your past traumatic experiences, they will create almost like a chain and ball on you, and it will prevent you from being great in the present moment. So the more we know about the enemy within, which is our fear adrenaline, which is the memory of, past occurrences that didn't go the way we wanted them to. Times where maybe we took a risk and it didn't turn out the way we wanted. And how it gives you a certain apprehension, or it makes you, very, very timid when it comes to making bold moves in the now. Because that's one of the rules and the laws of power, that you got to be very, very bold in your action. You got to be very, very confident. So there can't be anything that's, making you hesitant. That's tying you up in your brain, or it's tying you up in your emotions. A lot of the times through the fear adrenaline, it's pumping through our body, and it starts to affect our emotions. It starts to send negative images in our mind. And then when it comes to our central nervous system, we get very, very anxious. All right. So whenever you are in that state of anxiety or nervousness, it's going to be very, very hard to come up with a strategy so you can make the right move, make the right decision, and be fixed and grounded in the right now. OK, so that's another thing. What fear does, when the fear adrenaline is released, it takes you out of the present moment. What it does is it starts to make you get into a state of survival and preventing things that you don't want to happen. OK, so we're going to lead off this video with this quote. We suffer more in our imagination than in reality. I want you to repeat that to yourself. We suffer more in our imagination than in reality. Majority of our thoughts when we are confronted with a problem are going to be very, very negative, and they're going to include a lot of fear and anxiety. And if you dwell on that too much, it could lead to depression. And we also have a tendency to blow things up in our mind to make them a whole lot worse than they may be in reality. OK, so I'll give you an example. I once, heard an interview where there was an Army Ranger from a Ranger battalion, and he was speaking about how, his first deployment to Afghanistan after 9/11. And I think the man went in like 2012. So 9/11 happened in September of 2001. And I believe this gentleman was deployed in like maybe March or April of 2002. Early 2002, he was sent to Afghanistan first. All right. And he talked about how, of course, he went through his training, but when he was on the way to Afghanistan, in his mind, he had, what he anticipated the war to be like, or what the conflict to be like. He was thinking that as soon as the plane dropped, he was going to end up, getting off of the plane in the desert. It was going to be Al Qaeda and, the Taliban surrounding him. It was going to be this big shootout, a lot of bombs going off. He may even had certain images in his mind of what he thought war was based on TV or based on movies he had seen before. But when he got there, he realized that, what the conflict was much different. A lot of it was just doing a lot of patrolling, investigating certain areas. And a lot of times when nothing really is going on, you will have those times where it may be some shootouts and, they may possibly get ambushed or something like that. But for the majority of the time, these conflicts don't go the way we think in our mind. So him being, overwired and being very, very anxious, clutching on his gun as soon as he get off the plane, all the other military members who had experience, who had probably been in prior wars or prior conflicts, he noticed that they didn't do that. They were very calm, they were relaxed, and they weren't really taking it as serious. They had they were taking it serious, but meaning that they weren't anxious. They didn't seem like the fear was overtaking them. And the reason why is because those guys were highly trained and they had experience. So that's another thing you need to remember, that your training, your experience, and your strategies are going to be the three things that are going to help you deal with fear. Your training, your strategies, and your experience. These three things are going to help you when you have any kind of hostile situation in your life. And whenever you feel fearful, you should always fall back on your training. You should always fall back on your experience. All right. And you should always fall back on your strategies. Another thing is this. When the times are going good, this is when you should be coming up with the most strategies. The military doesn't wait to train their men when a war breaks out. They're doing a lot of training when nothing is going on. You know what I'm saying? If you go to different bases throughout, North America right now, you're going to see the men, training and still upkeeping their skill sets and learning new things. All right. So when the good times are rolling, meaning that maybe, your business or your job, you're making good money or something like that. These are the times where you need to be coming up with strategies on how you're going to use this money. Do I have a Roth IRA? Do I have my small term, my short and long term investments? Excuse me. Am I diversifying my investments? Do I have a trust set up? So when the money is coming in, these are the things that I should be doing. Am I looking into cash value, long term life insurance and things of that nature that I could possibly take a loan out on in the future? So when the money is coming in and when things are going good, this is when you want to come up with your strategies. Because one of the hardest things to do is to try to learn how to shoot a gun in the middle of a war. And that's most of the times what, people that aren't prepared, that's what happens. Also, being prepared is another tactic to defeat fear. OK, being prepared, not getting caught off guard, not being reactionary. So when you have a strategy means, you sit back, you think about all the good ways that something can turn out, and you think about all the unfavorable ways. So you think about favorable outcomes and unfavorable outcomes, and you come up with a contingency plan for both of them. So you tell yourself, if things go favorable, I'm going to do A. If things go unfavorable, I'm going to do B. So that means that once you get to the scene or the event, you should come in with any preconceived notions because you don't know what's going to happen. So you have to come in calm, and you have to already come in knowing what your strategy is going to be based on what naturally plays out in front of you. And that's another thing. Fear leads you to force events and create artificial realities. OK, it makes you do things that you don't necessarily need to do because you're trying to control something. So fear leads you to being a control freak. You don't want to let things organically play out. You feel like you got to control every aspect of something. But, life doesn't naturally work that way. OK. Before I press play to, start recording this, I had just a thought on something that I see in the Bible a lot. And when you read through the Bible a lot, what you will have is the Shemitic Israelite people who were in captivity in Egypt. OK, and they were being oppressed. And this was a hostile situation. But eventually they were freed from captivity, and they had to go on a journey to get to the promised land. OK, get to their destination. But while they were on that journey to the promised land, there were a lot of challenges on the long road ahead of them. And what you'll see throughout the Bible is that the Most High will always refer to, remember when I got you out of Egypt. Whenever a Shemitic Israelite person would be in a situation where, they may have been fearful or afraid, or, it was some type of traumatic event, and their soul or the spirit, or, how the Bible will write, the Most High, it will remind them of, remember when I brought you out of Egypt. So what this means when you see in the Bible where the Most High reminds the individual, remember when I brought you out of Egypt, this is remember the past times where you defeated all the odds. Remember the past times where your back was against the wall, but you still managed to become the conqueror and win in the situation. So that's another thing that's going to help you in your stress management and fear management. You got to think about the times in the past where you were in a tough situation and you came out the winner, because we've had them, whether it was some small or whether it was some big. You could be in a situation right now where, let's say, your money is kind of low. You got some bills you got to pay. You may have a business idea you want to invest in, and right now, your monetary situation may not be exactly like you want. And this can create a fear. It can create an anxiety. And what your brain will start doing is start showing you all these events of things not playing out the way you want. It'll start showing you your business failing. It'll start showing you getting kicked out of your home or your apartment because you can't pay the rent. So these are the things that, your brain will start showing you because of the fear adrenaline and because of the fight or flight. And also from certain, things that we've inherited in the genetics and the DNA from our ancestors and the antagonistic situations that they were in, that I'll go into a little bit more in a minute. So you're in this present situation right now where your money is low. But think about the times in the past where you may have had some money problems and issues, but you worked it out. Maybe you had a plan or something, and some money came through at the right space and time, and you were able to do what you needed to do. Or maybe you had a partner or a friend or a family member, and maybe they were able to help you out a little bit in this situation. Or it may have been a time where, you may have found some money or came up on some money. But nevertheless, just like the Most High told the Israelites, remember when I got you out of Egypt, remember that past time when you got out of that tough situation. So if you got out of one before, that means that you can get out of this again. All right. So these current situations that we may be in that, they may be kind of scary. But that does not give us the right to succumb to that fear, because there are times in the past where we were confronted with something scary and you defeated it. You came out as the conqueror. Or even if you don't have any yourself, think about other people that you may know or that you don't know, but you may know about their stories. All right. So that's a good thing to just keep on your mind. OK. So the next thing we want to think about is, when I just made the comment on the ancient ancestors and what we inherited from them. All right. So your fight or flight response, the fear adrenaline, a lot of this is centered in the reptilian brain stem of the human brain. OK. And that is the most ancient, oldest part of our brain. And it has the most experience. And it's had the most activities, believe it or not, because it's the oldest part of the human brain. So throughout the whole overall life experience, this part of the brain was stimulated the most, and it had, the most, like I say, the most experiences, right? So let's think about the ancient man and ancient woman, okay? Our original indigenous ancestors lived in a hostile environment. They didn't live in an earth that was, built up like it is today. It didn't have the infrastructure that it has today. A lot of the wildlife still was roaming and ruling the earth. You had a lot of dangerous predators that were still roaming and ruling the earth. The Bible talks about this in the Old Testament, where after the flood, it talks about the Cushite Hamitic man named Nimrod. And it talks about how Nimrod and his contemporaries had to clean out a lot of the wild beasts in order to reinstitute civilization post the flood. So if you look at some of the Babylonian or Sumerian or ancient Mesopotamian or ancient American, hieroglyphics or carvings on walls, etc., a lot of the times you will see maybe a man and he'll be, putting a lion or some type of a dangerous beast in a chokehold. Or you may see, one of the melanated Shemitic, heroes of the Grecian, pantheon, and they may be fighting the Hydra or something like that. Like you may see Heracles or Samson fighting the Hydra. So what that symbolically is showing us is the history where ancient man, he had to, fight against this dangerous earth environment and a lot of the dangerous animals and species and organisms that were here. And this was a very, very frightful, predicament and circumstance that they were in. All right. A lot of people died that were destroyed and killed by these animals and beasts, etc. So this instilled a lot of fear in them during those ancient times, having to deal with these situations, right? So now let's take where we are now, millions of years later, okay? We may not have giant, saber-toothed tigers running around. We may not have giant, grizzly bears running around today, right? But what we do have is the power bill. What we do have is the student loan. What we do have is the grocery bill. And in these present times, the way that the economics is kind of tightening on, and putting people in the chokehold, this creates the same kind of fear today for us, like this monetary situation. This could create fear for us today, just like the ancient, black caiman of South America, the giant ancient black caiman of South America that the ancient Maya or the ancient Olmec had to deal with. So even though we don't deal with these same typhonic predators, we still have things today that elicit fear and can create fear in us. So this comes from the ancient ancestor. You see, this is where the human body and the human brain had its first fight or flight, fear, adrenaline situations from the past, and this was encoded and recorded into the human genome. All right. So what we have to learn to do is we have to learn how to create what's called stress management skills or fear adrenaline management skills. All right. As I said before, the main thing that you're going to use to defeat fear are your training, strategy, logic, and common sense. All right. So whatever it is that you're doing, like let's say if you're working on your business or you have a job or whatever it is you're doing, right? And every day you fine tuning your craft on that so you can continue to excel and advance in it. So even though you may have something rough going on right now, you need to fall back on your training and fall back on, what you're working on. All right. Let's say if it's a boxer, okay, if it's the athletic event boxing, you get in the ring and you're doing your boxing fight, right? But let's say you get hit real hard in your ribs, and it's really, really hurting. You know what I'm saying? In an instant, you're going to get that fear adrenaline. But what you do is you fall back on your training. Okay. You fall back on your training in that situation. All right. The number one most important thing when you may be in a confrontational situation, this is the number one and most important thing, is staying calm and breathing, being calm and collected, being cool and being chill. That is the most important thing you have to do when you have confrontational situations in this life. Because if you're not calm and cool, you're not going to have the time and the mental space to create a strategy. Because when you're fearful, things are moving too fast. You don't know how to slow things down. Okay. It's no different if Kobe Bryant is about to shoot a game-winning shot. And this is the game-winning shot in order to win the series or in order to win the finals or in order to win a game. It's a lot of fear and it's a lot of adrenaline and anxiety going on. It's a lot of loud noise. Things are moving very, very fast. You may even start getting, past memories where you had a game-winning shot and you missed and how it let the team down and it felt bad. While all this is going on, you need to learn how to stay calm, stay quiet, and stay chilled and not even really think about any of that. Your objective basically is to stay calm. It's not to think about anything. It's not to feel really anything. It's just to stay chill and just stay calm. So you know how when some people go into a state of meditation and when you just sit there, you're just quiet, you're calm, and you're not even having thoughts. You're not even evaluating your thoughts. You letting your thoughts pass by like clouds on a sunny day. Think about how clouds are on a sunny day when you're looking up at the sky and how the clouds, they just pass on. They're just moving on. They're moving along. That's how your thoughts are when you're in a state of meditation. So when you're in a state of fear, that's how you should evaluate all that stuff. It's just like a cloud on a sunny day. You just let it pass by. You don't acknowledge it. You don't identify with it. You just stay calm. You just stay content. And then through that, you will have a strategy that you can implement. But you won't come up with a strategy if you're in that state of fear, because fear speeds you up. All right. So if you can stay calm, you can come up with a strategy. OK, you can come up with a solution. That's very, very important. All right. Another thing I want you to remember is this. I don't care if you've had 20 deployments to the Middle East. I don't care if you're in the streets and you just survived 10 shootouts. I don't care if you've had a prison sentence and you've been in prison for 15 years and you got out. You may have been in a lot of situations where they were fearful and you survived them and you got out of them. In this life, you'll never be able to fully conquer that fear adrenaline. Whenever you're in a situation, the fear adrenaline is going to release in your body. OK, it's a natural phenomenon. It's a natural occurrence. All right. So this is what we have to learn to do. We have to shift our attitude and we have to shift our perception on how we view this adrenaline when it's released through our body. OK, we should view this adrenaline release in our body whenever it's a situation going on, or whether, it's a fight or flight occurrence or something that's like, threatening our survival or threatening our life. When you have that adrenaline released in your body, you should perceive that adrenaline release no different than the way the Predator or the Terminator has that scanning or that radar system within their psyche. Okay. So for all of you all that have seen the movie The Predator, I want you to think about how the Predator, when he evaluates an environment, how he's scanning the environment. And he almost has that little computer system in his, in his mask. And he's looking at the environment. He's looking at through his infrared. He's looking at he's using heat sensor to see what living organisms have heat, so that white glow will light up. Think about the Terminator. Think about how the Terminator, when, he scans an environment, he's looking in the environment. He sees, OK, there's a dog right here. OK, there's a building right here. He has a subject or a target he's looking for, and he's scanning all the people to see which one is that target. Right. So basically for the Predator and the Terminator, that radar system it's like an awareness system. It's giving them information. It's allowing them to know what's going on in the environment. And once they assess the environment and they have all the information they need, then they make a move. Then they make a decision. OK, so the more information you have, the better decision you can make. So in our physical bodies, when that adrenaline starts pumping and flowing through us, that is your Predator Terminator scanning radar system. That's what that is. All it's doing is trying to make you aware of what's going on in the environment. So what you have to do is stay calm, and you have to scan the environment and receive the information. You have to see where is the potential threat. OK, so that's what I want to close the video with. That adrenaline rush in your body is not meant to destroy you. We must learn to be disciplined. And this takes training. So it's not like something you're going to be able to, do overnight. It's something you're going to work towards every day of your life. And you're not going to rush yourself and beat yourself up about it. You're going to be patient. Because that's part of the, strategy on dealing with fear. You got to know how to be patient. But we're going to learn how to use the adrenaline rush as a way to increase and heighten our perception and our awareness. We're going to learn to use that to slow down time so we can make the right decision. But if you don't have all the information, you're going to make the wrong decision. OK, so I just wanted to give this, to the men and women out there in the Midnight Mirage, the whole Red Stick family. So you could use this and implement these strategies and these techniques in your own personal and individual life, because all of us out here, we're on some journey or objective. Some of us are working to, get financial success. Some of us are leading our families. Some of us may be leading, in a leading position at our job, or maybe you're on a leading position on a team, some kind of sporting event or athletics. No matter where it is, no matter if it's in a, very, very serious leadership position or something is basic. All of us need to learn how to have fear and stress management techniques. And I'm going to leave you with the most important ones. It's breathing, it's staying calm, fall back on your training, have as much information as you can, assess the environment, okay? This is going to allow you to deal with it. So have you a strategy, stay calm, assess the environment, have as much information as you can possibly get. And whatever your training is, you fall back on your training, all right? So hopefully this video was of some use. Stay tuned. I'm out.